I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what that was. Anything is going to happen on this streak, apparently, which is 10 games. The Blue Jays' 10-game winning streak and another series win on a rainout game that they win in 6 innings. Yeah, all right.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
As always, I'm Brayden Iwasko. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter at Brayden5Iwasko, at Carter First 2, as well on our main Twitter account at Locked On Jays. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok, both at Locked On Blue Jays. And you guys have been knocking it out of the park with the subscribers coming in, the new fans, or I don't want to say new fans, but maybe fans returning to the Blue Jays. And we are thrilled to have you guys join along. So if you are new and you haven't subscribed already, hit that subscribe button. Keep up to date with everything going on in Toronto Blue Jays land here on Locked On Blue Jays. You get your shorts, your podcasts, your live streams, your videos, which, Carter, before we get into anything, which we got to talk about the rainout game and how all that went, you got a question for me. I know it's in regards to David Schneider. I don't know what it is. The franchise now record that the Toronto Blue Jays are on, and another series win to encapsulate everything, including a Chris Bassitt start, being able to save the bullpen, all of it. But before we do all of that, we have something to announce, and it is in regards to the Locked On Blue Jays 999 live stream, Carter.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the most pressing thing. Now, I didn't realize you were going to do it right off the top of the episode. Yeah, who cares if the Toronto Blue Jays are on a 10-game win streak? We've got the 999 challenge coming up. I guess we'll get into that because, we're already here. So, July 22nd, game against the New York Yankees. That is Looney Dog night at the Rogers Center. So, we decided that it would work for our 999 challenge as well. So just again, that is July 22nd, the Blue Jays against the New York Yankees. We will be attempting, I don't know about completing, but attempting the 999 challenge. I'm not that excited for it. I think Brayden's excited to just see me attempt it rather than like him just, he'll suffer just to see me suffer as well. So I know he's excited for it. I hope you guys are as well. But Brayden, just his overall quick thoughts just about that day coming up, and just overall how you think you're going to fare in that 999 challenge.
You know what? It's not really about the 999 for me. I mean, that's cool. It's a cool little add-in that we're doing, but it's more to be able to actually talk with all of you guys that constantly come and watch the show. And it's going to be a blast. Come join us. Come try to compete with us if you want to as well. But I wouldn't necessarily suggest that. But in saying that, we've got it out there. We've let you guys know. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode, Carter. A rainout game, a 10-game win streak. Have you ever felt this good in your lifetime as a Toronto Blue Jays fan? I'm going to take away 2015 and 2016.
Oh, well then no. This is definitely the top of that. Like, you kind of took out the 2 years that obviously I would say. But 2021 was a lot of fun. Just watching that baseball team just score 1 million runs. But the Toronto Blue Jays are kind of doing the same thing in just a little bit of a different way this year. Not necessarily hitting a ton of home runs. They got a bunch of guys that are starting to, kind of pick it up. Like, they have a few people over 10 home runs now. You got Austin Barger, who I said might be the team leader, and by the end of this year in home runs, George Springer, Vladdy, who we're still kind of waiting. I don't know how much longer we're expected to wait for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to kind of turn it up, but Bichette has more than 10 home runs. So there are some guys that are hitting home runs on this team, but you're not really looking at what you did in 2021, where you had Vladdy with 48. You had Marcus Semien with, I believe it was 45 or 46, something along those lines. So you had 2 guys over 40 home runs. This year, you'll be lucky if you get 1 over 30. So it's not as much just the heavy hitters at the top of the lineup that are carrying the order. I say this every single episode, but that is how it is going. And it kind of happened again in the second game of the White Sox series, that everyone is contributing. Even just looking at the offensive scorecard just from today and looking at some of the stat lines here, the only player without a hit in this lineup was Ernie Clement. And that's, again, my boy. Unfortunate that he couldn't get a hit here. But again, not really needed in a 6-inning game. Shout out to Chris Bassitt, complete game. Still counts, even though it was only 6 innings. Wanted to get that off the top as well. But just looking at down the line, Nathan Lucas 1 for 4. George Springer, another 2-hit game. Guy is unstoppable. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. 2 for 4. Bichette had an intentional walk, which I thought was interesting. That was a part of 1 for 2 effort. And just you continue to go down the line. And everyone is contributing once again. And that is a recipe recipe for consistent success. And that's exactly what we have seen from the Toronto Blue Jays, not even over this last 10-game stretch, at this point, almost over the last 40 games.
Yeah, and you got to be thrilled, right? It's the by committee approach that this Toronto Blue Jays team is taking. It's everybody doing their part, the next man up mentality. If somebody goes down or somebody needs to be put into the lineup, the next guy coming in is going to do his job. We saw it with Joey Loperfido in game 1 of this series. You see it with David Schneider being inserted into this one. Guys are coming in and getting jobs done, and at the end of the day, that's really all you can ask for, especially some of these guys that are lower in the order. But Carter, I want to get into all that, but what I really want to start with is Chris Bassitt, because the guy that I didn't think really had his best stuff today, he just wasn't getting the whiffs. He wasn't getting the Ks. I mean, he had one strikeout today, so it sort of blows my mind that they only scored 1 run. But again, we talk about this by committee approach, everybody doing their jobs. Well, Chris Bassitt, if he got into a tough situation with a runner on first, he was pitching for the ground ball. And you got to have faith in your defense that your defense is going to go out there and now make the play. And they did. They were getting the jobs done today. And some of them weren't the most difficult double plays to turn, but they were getting the job done. And that's all you can really ask for. You go out there as a pitcher and you're asked to do a certain thing. And they know what kind of pitcher Chris Bassitt is. He's not going to get 10 Ks or the Mizorowski 12K game that just happened last night. But they're going to get a guy that's going to pitch to contact and pitch for some, that's going to make this defense have to play a good defensive game of baseball. And that's what we've been getting. Every piece of this team does their jobs. If it's the offense, if it's the defense, if it's the pitching, if it's the bullpen, it doesn't matter. And that's why it's so exciting to see, because I think I said this a couple episodes ago, maybe, Carter, but it could be a season where you have 3 guys going nuts for a month. And then you think, well, this isn't that sustainable because it's 3 guys having to carry a lineup. It's a little bit the Yankee effect, right? When Aaron Judge isn't being Aaron Judge, the team struggles. But with this Toronto Blue Jays team, when it's 1 through 9 doing their jobs, the starting pitching giving you a chance to win almost every ball game, and then the bullpen locking it down, that's where you can see the consistency and the ability to carry this throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's going to be the storyline of the rest of the season. Is this sustainable success? Is this something that the Toronto Blue Jays can not only do for the first half of the season, but carry that over to this All-Star break, carry that through the trade deadline? And that's the greatest part about looking at this team right now, is that it can really only get better. When you look at Daulton Varsho coming back, Anthony Santander coming back, now you have Yimi Garcia and Nick Sandlin back on the IL. It's very unfortunate, obviously, that we will get into more so the Nick Sandlin stuff. You guys already know about Yimi Garcia. But there are a lot of players on the IL, and that's not even including the trade deadline where the Toronto Blue Jays are a very obvious buying candidate. You can add to that starting pitching. There's rumors that they might add a power bat. They should add to the bullpen as well. Those are really the 3 factors that they will add to. I mean, I guess that's starting pitching, that's bullpen, that's position players. So what else is there? They're going to get a new coach at the deadline? Probably not, obviously. But like this team, like I said, can only improve, can only go in the upwards trajectory. And this team, like, that's why a lot of the people, even the casual fans, like you kind of talked about in the last episode, we have kind of been building up to this point, starting to see a lot of the casual fans coming back, starting to see people get very excited about this Toronto Blue Jays team. We're not from Toronto, but you can just feel the buzz, just even on social media. You can tell that Toronto's buzzing. Even all of Canada, I think, is starting to buzz around this Toronto Blue Jays team. This is finally a real feeling that people really haven't had since 2015, 2016, that this team can maybe make a deep playoff run.
Yeah, and you know what? It's you can tell that the baseball gods are shining down on this team specifically just because of the win like yesterday, right? It is a rainout game, and the Toronto Blue Jays get away with it because they were 1 inning over what is considered a non-playable game, which would be 5 innings.
They're probably winning this game anyway. Like, let's be honest. Chris Bassitt's in cruise control. Like, they have runners on. Nathan Lucas is at the plate. I think they're probably scoring once again. But.
Absolutely. But in saying that, it could have gone the other way. Maybe they were down by a run, and you could see that they were fighting back into this, and then they get a rainout game, and it could have ended that streak just like that. But instead, they're up in this game, and it rains out, and it doesn't really have much effect on what happens besides saving your bullpen, even though you do have an off day coming. But it's always nice to give guys rest when you can. So I guess before we get into like the franchise record of it all, and your big question you got surrounding David Schneider and his performance, I do want to talk about just the rainout game in total. As a fan, that's super frustrating to see. Like, when this team is buzzing And I'm sitting there and I planned my night out to like be able to sit and watch some Blue Jays baseball. And I only get 6 innings. Don't get me wrong. I'm thrilled. They won the game. I don't really care. But it would have been nice to see them, finish that game out and be able to have 3 more innings of Blue Jays baseball.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the other side of the fence where we kind of did a little bit of a flip-flop here. I think if you're going to have a scenario where you can get a win, I don't care what the team is, and especially when you've played like 13 games in a row, maybe it's 12 games in a row up to this point, if you can get a little bit of time off, especially with the Toronto Blue Jays, I know they do have an off day on Thursday, so I guess it is kind of, at the end of this little stretch here. But like at this point, if you can secure a win, if you can continue to get this win streak, even until the All-Star break at this point, that's something that you got to take as Toronto Blue Jays fans. I think it can only be positive for this team to, not play in the rain, not have somebody throwing a baseball. I can't remember who was ending the game for the White Sox. That guy had no business. Again, it's pouring, so it's not his fault. But they could try to continue on the game, and he just couldn't find the strike zone because he can't grip the baseball. Again, It's not really his fault whatsoever, but I'm not sure why they're trying to continue on that baseball game when it's literally a torrential downpour. But that can only bode well for the Toronto Blue Jays because you don't have to risk injuries and risk Vladimir, risk Barger, whoever was going up to the plate, getting hit by a baseball, and then, God forbid, getting hit in the hand, getting hit in the foot somewhere where there is a lot of small bones. Just in totality, probably a good thing for the Jays.
Yeah, and you know what? When I look at it as like a baseball player, a guy who used to play the game, I totally get it from that standpoint. It's my selfishness out of a fan wanting to see his team continue to play great baseball. But you're right. At the end of the day, you take the wins when you can get them. You know what? There was points last season where we're watching every single game, Carter, and it was getting like, oh my God, I don't know if I could take any more of this. To this year where they get a rainout win to make the win streak 10, and I'm sitting there a little bit being like, oh, I could have used a couple more innings. It's a great turn of events here for the 2025 Toronto Blue Jays in comparison to last season.
Well, and like I said, they might have scored again in that 6th inning or in that 7th inning. So we might have missed out on maybe, what if the Jays got 1 million runs? Maybe they're, people that are worried about the run differential, that was the time to pad the stats. And we completely got gypped of that. But hey, like I said, Chris Bassitt, complete game. So that's the spin zone. I mean, just what an outing from Chris Bassitt. The White Sox couldn't get to the guy. But kind of just quickly going over his outing here, Mike Tauchman had a pitch to him, obviously first at bat of the game. I think that's really the only one that he might want back. Maybe the Josh Rojas one, kind of had a fastball that probably stayed a little bit too middle in. Probably wants to get that pitch inside a little bit more. But then he had a pitch to Colson Montgomery, who kind of just, hits the end of the bat, soft contact in the center field. And then Luis Robert Jr. makes a good swing. Other than that, it was just a lot of soft contact, not really too many hard hit balls. Did run into some trouble, obviously, in the first 2 innings, but Chris Bassitt is literally he is just known to pitch to soft contact. He gets soft contact constantly, and he doesn't really get hit hard that often. So Chris Bassitt used that to his advantage in a lot of these White Sox at-bats, especially early on, where he could get those ground balls, get double plays, and get out of the inning, and also save that pitch count a little bit. It's all boded well for Chris Bassitt. Again, didn't necessarily have a lot of whiffs, had only 5 whiffs on 78 pitches, but had that typical Chris Bassitt start where he just ate some innings and did not give up a lot of runs in typical Chris Bassitt fashion.
Yeah, and you got to applaud him for being able to still get the job done. I think you could tell that he didn't have, some games you see Chris Bassitt be able to go out there and he has his swing and miss stuff. In this one, it didn't seem like he had any type of swing and miss stuff. But again, the defense behind him knows what they're going to get from Chris Bassitt or what's expected, and that is soft contact. So them understanding that and knowing where to play and when to play and being on their toes a little bit, I think that shows a great deal out of this defense as well. But Carter, a lot more to talk about. I do want to get into the franchise record that was set by the Toronto Blue Jays. Plus, we got to talk another series win. We got to talk about the offense and what they were doing. I know you have a question for me for David Schneider. So a lot more to come. Stick around after this short break.
Today's episode is sponsored by Open Phone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had a service emergency, like a pipe burst. If the first plumber didn't answer, did you wait? Nope, you call the next one. And that's why having a reliable business line is so important. And that's why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer. Do you juggle 2 phones just to keep business and personal calls separate? Open Phone solved that for me instantly. where I completely separated my personal calls and my work calls, whether it was my full-time job, whether it was locked on stuff, whether it's one of the side gigs that I typically do. I like to know whether it's my friends calling me, just try to have a good time, especially if it's a weekend. I don't necessarily want to answer a business call, or if it is on the business side, that is one thing Open Phone helped me with a ton. So I could kind of pick and choose who I wanted to answer at what times, and I could log everything efficiently. So you guys can start with Open Phone today, as they are offering Locked On. So the Locked On show listeners 20% off their first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonmlb. That's openphone.com/lockedonmlb. If you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls and no missed customers.
So, Carter, just continuing on, the Blue Jays set a franchise record for the most wins before the All-Star break of a season in the entirety of the franchise. I'm not talking about just the 2000s here. This is the entire franchise. So back to 92, 93, this team was not as many wins, I'll say, in those seasons either. So it's unbelievable what this team has been able to accomplish, the streak that they've been on. I think the fight and the grit and the heart that this team showing, bouncing back from what was, you can't call it anything else but a complete disappointment, forgotten season in 2024.
I mean, what a whirlwind these last 2 years have been. Going from 2023, where you had the best pitching staff of all time, just zero offense. 2024, just one of the worst years that I remember watching the Toronto Blue Jays. Just a lot of it due to the expectation that this team did have. That was supposed to be a massive year. One of the kind of near the end of that window where you thought maybe the Toronto Blue Jays could make a deep playoff run, and then you were just ultimately disappointed, kind of blow up the team at the trade deadline. And then now we're here going into this season, 76.5 wins as the projected win total on the majority of sites that I saw going into the season. Even surprising, I think, mine and your expectations, at least up to this point. I think I had 85 wins as a projection. You had somewhere around 90. So, credit to you. Obviously, we wanted the Toronto Blue Jays to win 162 games. We're not quite there, but the Toronto Blue Jays are winning a lot of games, and that is something that you can definitely be excited for. And continuing on with the success and hopefully big acquisitions that they will have at this trade deadline. That's why people are getting so excited about this baseball team. It's not just that random year where the Toronto Blue Jays are like 5-6 games above 500, kind of destined for that wild card spot. These are the vibes that haven't really been had ever. Looking at just the win total, looking at how people felt in 2015, people comparing these seasons to the 92 and 93 seasons. There's a lot of buzz around the Toronto Blue Jays team, and for very good reason. So you can only be excited for what's in store for the Toronto Blue Jays team.
Yeah, Carter, and 5 straight series wins for the Toronto Blue Jays as well. So not only are they on a 10-game winning streak, not only did they break a franchise record for the most wins before the All-Star break, but they are also on a 5-series winning streak. So what this team has been able to accomplish, you just got to applaud. But in saying all of that, now that we got, I got you guys some of the information, we want to talk. I want to talk about the offense, Carter, just before we talk about the injury that did happen to Nick Sandlin as well, which we'd have to address here. And then obviously we want to take a look at game 3 of this series, moving into the off day, plus your question to me, which we will, I think, save for either the back half of this segment or the start of number 3. But Carter, I guess today with this lineup hitting how they were, again, it just felt like everything was going right for this team. I guess give me your standout guy from this offense, or one guy you really want to highlight. Hopefully you don't take mine.
It's just has to be George Springer. How is it not going to be George Springer? That hit or that swing in even the first inning, just to have that backside double off Aaron Savali. Aaron Savali, kind of a bum. I'll start with that, but not taking anything away from George Springer. This guy is on fire. Just a beautiful swing from Springer. Just again, it's unfathomable what he is doing at the plate, especially from what you saw in 2024. We predicted a bounce back, but nowhere near what George Springer is doing right now. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, we believe in George Springer. We believe in George Springer." I really think that the majority of the Toronto Blue Jays fan base did not believe in George Springer. At least me and you admit it. A lot of people don't, but hey, if you did back up George Springer, congrats to you. I did not have a lot of faith in old man Unk, 35-year-old George Springer, who probably has been the MVP of this team up to this point. Just the swings that this guy has are absolutely ridiculous. Just, having a little bit more swing and miss in the game, but sacrificing that swing and miss to hit absolute missiles, whether that's into the outfield, whether it's line drives, whether that's into the seats. It's got to be George Springer, I think, once again here.
George Springer, I mean, realistically, in most of these winning streak games, could be the MVP every game, which is just, I mean, it's unfathomable. You're right. I can't imagine today me going back in time to this offseason and giving myself George Springer's stat line over this past little bit here. I would be blown away because you're 100% right. There was a couple people that I did see that did, we're trying to be on George Springer's side, but I would say it's like a 98% to 2% to people that were like, wow, we're done with this guy. It was a steady decline for 3 years. Nobody in their right mind for the majority predicted this. And yeah, you're right. I'm with you. I didn't predict this. I wasn't even close. So, and you know what? I really got to go back to the hot takes video that me, you, Dallin Wilton, Skylar Peters, we all did together. And maybe if you guys haven't seen that, go back and look at it now just to see sort of how those predictions are on pace. We'll look at it at the end of the season to see how we're doing. But you know what? Dallin Wilton, hat tips to this guy, says that this team was a World Series team.
No, he said they were a one bullpen arm away from being a World Series team. I love in the moment that was the worst take of the episode. Shaping up, I don't want to jump the gun here or anything, but shaping up not to be too bad. Maybe if he would have had that asterisk and maybe just said need one more high leverage pitcher, because I think this team needs a starting pitcher a little bit more than the bullpen arms. But again, with some of the injuries, you can never have too many starting pitchers. You can never have too many bullpen arms. But yeah, it's just an interesting take at the time that is slowly looking a little bit better as time passes. I got to go back and look at that segment for us too. I looked back at it, I think a month ago. I know I was 1 for 3 or trending to be 1 for 3 at the time. I know one of my takes was Kevin Gausman getting some Cy Young votes. That's not going to happen. He's been okay, I guess, but expect a little bit more from Kevin Gausman. But that's the crazy thing about our their hot takes and the takes that we do have in the offseason. Obviously, we have some sort of merit that goes into them, but at some point as well, when I was making those takes, I'm like, these aren't the most likely. That's why we're trying to make them hot takes. So when they do come to fruition, especially when they're positive for the Toronto Blue Jays, that is something that you can definitely get excited about. So I guess credit to Dallin Wilton, even though I thought that was absolutely ludicrous at the time. I'm not saying that it's going to completely work out, but it's shaping up to be a lot closer than I anticipated right off the rip.
Yeah, and exactly. And don't get me wrong. We're not out here saying the Toronto Blue Jays are the best team in baseball. And we got a comment about that. And there were some people, asking us about that. We don't think the Toronto Blue Jays are the best team in baseball. We do
right now is debatable.
The
way they're playing.
We do think the Blue Jays are the hottest team in baseball.
Yeah.
That's what it should have. That's what it should be. That's what we were trying to get across, is that right now you can't look at any other team and say that they are hotter than the Toronto Blue Jays right now. So, and that could very well change in the next little bit. We said baseball's weird. Things can happen. Things can change overnight. But looking at this team, we pray to God it doesn't. And we go into this All-Star break well above 500 and hopefully keeping with the AL East lead, Carter, and still trying to battle the Houston Astros there for that second seed. Because, you know what? You said it last episode. I'm hardcore standings watching. I don't care. I'm a lunatic fan, and that's what I do.
Well, it's more incentive to standings watch when you see the Toronto Blue Jays every morning at the top of those standings. I'm at the point where, again, we said going into this Los Angeles Angels, White Sox, and Athletics stretch, I don't want to jinx anything again, but we said 6 out of 9. Give me all of them. I don't want to lose before the All-Star break. Let's just go on an absolute run. And what would that be? I think a 14-game win streak going into the All-Star break. I think that would do absolute numbers, not only for the podcast, not only for my mental health, but for the Toronto Blue Jays fan base. I mean, what better way to go into an All-Star break and be excited for your team than seeing a team win 14 straight games, just go on an absolute heater. The offense really carrying the Toronto Blue Jays team. Not necessarily something I thought we would be saying, especially early on in the season. But enjoy it while it's here. I hope this does last for the entire season, but we deserve this. I've said this in the last episode as Toronto Blue Jays fans, with all the heartache that we have gone through, not only over the last couple of seasons, just honestly since 2016, hasn't necessarily been the greatest memories, especially when you look at some of those playoff memories back in the 2020s. But hopefully we can make some more, and that is the whole point of this year. That a lot of anticipation, a lot of hope for the future, and it's going to be a crazy roller coaster ride to the end. So we're strapping in. We hope you guys are as well, because it's, again, one of the best I've felt watching the Toronto Blue Jays, maybe even in my entire life.
Yeah, it's not even a bold take. This has been exciting. And you know what? It's different for us, right? We have the podcast. We get to chat with all the people. we're having an absolute blast doing it. We can't thank you guys enough for, the comments, the support, the likes, the conversations that we have with some of you guys. If it's in the comments, if it's on Twitter, if you guys are DMing us on Instagram or Twitter or whatever it is, you can't even understand how much we appreciate all of that. So thank you to everybody that stuck around with us, maybe even through the off season, through last year, or any of the new people that have come and joined in the last, couple days or so. But Carter, still a lot more to talk about. You want to ask me about Davis Schneider. I know that. We got to talk about the next game, the final game of this series, game 3, and just a couple more guys in the offense. So I think we'll do all that when we come back right after this short break. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. You guys know how much I talk about FanDuel and love FanDuel. I just placed a bet for this last game. Now, it didn't pay out because it was a rain game, and I think I would have been screwed anyway. I had Chris Bassitt at 4 strikeouts, and he had 1, so I might not have hit that, but I got my money back because it was a rain game. It was great. Summer sports in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the greens, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned on the beach. Or do a little bit of both. Bet at the beach too. Why not? It's fun. You can stay in touch with all the games. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. It has to win. Make sure it's a lock. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Carter, just as we continue on here, we got to talk about game 3 of the series, but I think you've been teeing up this Davis Schneider question. I don't know what it's going to be because you haven't told me, but it's been like 3 episodes. Can we just do it right now?
Yes, you almost teed it up like too much, I think, for the quality of question. It's not really this game-breaking question that I was expecting to ask. But again, we've defaulted so many things. There's actually another thing that I quickly want to go over after the Davis Schneider thing that we should have brought up earlier, but just had no time to do. But with Davis Schneider, just the first, I guess it's a 2-part question. The first one is just kind of a vibes question, just especially you as a Davis Schneider guy, seeing him finally have that success once again, especially after the peaks and valleys that this guy has had since 2023. So how are you feeling? How do you think he's feeling after just having those productive at-bats and really just inserting himself as almost like a must-play, especially against left-handed pitching?
Well, listen, I've always been the guy that I'm not going to go out and get jerseys and be absolute super fans over, some of the superstars on this team or any team. I mean, if it's the Vancouver Canucks or if it's, or the Jays or whoever it may be, I'm never going to pick the guy as my favorite player that's the absolute superstar. It's going to be the guy that works his tail off, continues to try to get better, goes through peaks and valleys, guy you can cheer for, that you want to cheer for. And Davis Schneider is that guy. What he did when he first came into the league was absolutely electric. And don't get me wrong, I think in the back of our heads, we didn't know if it was going to last or we didn't think it maybe could. But it was such a good story and feel-good story for me. And now to see him go through a little bit of trial and tribulations last year and come back this year and sort of look like he's fitting into that role perfectly. And just a guy that works his ass off, Carter. And that's why I love this guy. And so, yeah, it was tough to watch when he's doing bad, but yeah, it sure feels good now watching him hit a home run and, a series to kick things off for this Toronto Blue Jays. And he's got to be feeling just over the moon, feeling like he's back, found his place on the team with all his friends, right? He's made those connections. He's made those friendships with the guys in the clubhouse. He probably hated being sent down. And then when he was brought back and sort of found his way, he probably felt like, hey, I'm back with the boys here. So you got to love that.
Well, now it's kind of seeming like they've just brought in Buffalo over to the big league team. Because you look at Joey Lopefito, Will Wagner, Addison Barger. You have Davis Schneider. You kind of continuing down the list. Ernie Clement was once in Buffalo as well. So you have a ton of guys that have been called up to this Toronto Blue Jays ball club. And that's not even from the bullpen side of things. That's not even a guy like Eric Lauer, who I guess was in AAA for just a short while this season. But a lot of bullpen or a lot of Buffalo help. Not only helping the bullpen, but helping this offense as well. And Davis Schneider in the last 7 games has a .652 slugging percentage, is hitting those home runs, is that power hitting lefty off the bench or a power hitter against left-handed pitching off the bench that we did need. And Davis Schneider being just another one of those guys that a little bit of a resurrection and just being productive in the moments that he's thrown into those baseball games, making the most of what John Schneider is giving him. And the second part of this question is pretty much just what has led to this success? What have you seen change from not only David Schneider's first stint, but going into now? Like, what is there something specific that you've seen, or is it just an overall confidence thing from David Schneider?
Carter, I've talked about this many times, and if it is in regards to the pitching staff or David Schneider, whoever it may be, confidence is king. You have to go out onto that diamond every day and think that you're the best player on there. Otherwise, you're not going to succeed. You have to believe that you are better than the pitcher that you're facing. And so it is. It is an absolute confidence thing. Him being sent down to AAA was something we said should have happened in 2024. Let him go back down there. Let him find it. And then bring him back up when he's ready. And so, yeah, huge hat tips to him of finding the confidence again, because when this guy is confident at the dish, taking pitches again is a big thing. Having that eye, he was getting a little bit away from that, chasing pitches, because I think he almost felt like he had to do something. He was trying to push himself to hit pitches that he shouldn't be. He's watching for his pitch now. And I think that's a huge thing. And that all comes back to confidence and believing that you are in that position because of your skill and not because, of something you did 2 years ago or something like that. So congratulations to him. I'm more than thrilled. And seeing his sisters and stuff on Twitter just fires me up all the time. Having that support system there's got to be great for him. And, having that cheering section in your corner. So yeah, great job, Davis.
Yeah, for me, I had a checklist of 3 things with David Schneider. Number 1 was just his ability to just and knowledge of the strike zone. I think that's something that David Schneider completely lost in 2024. Now he's coming back. He's taking very close pitches. He knows exactly which pitches he wants to swing at. So part of it is the game plan as well. I'll throw in the game plan with the confidence, though. Confidence is a big thing, obviously, at the major league level. So David Schneider doing a very good job at doing that as well. And another thing that David Schneider, I've noticed recently, has been doing that he wasn't doing before is he's completely laying off the high fastball, and he's just kind of playing to his strengths rather than, falling into the weaknesses. That was one of David Schneider's biggest weaknesses, and what pitchers were really attacking against him was that high fastball, and he was swinging at it constantly. He was almost trying to get to that fastball and playing to the weakness and playing to what the pitcher was trying to do to him, playing him high in that strike zone and then getting him to foul it back, strike out. We saw David Schneider strike out a ton last year in 2024, and that high fastball was one of the reasons. Now David Schneider doing a lot better of a job of playing to his strengths, hitting mistake pitches, and again, not falling into that high fastball. So credit to David Schneider for, just that little bit of a resurrection, because I didn't have David Schneider being a productive player on this baseball team, especially after what he kind of did at the start of the season in that short tenure they did have with the Toronto Blue Jays ball club. But let's keep the train rolling here. Let's keep the train on chugging. The Toronto Blue Jays look for another series sweep, which is absolutely crazy to say. This one against the Chicago White Sox. That's not as crazy to say because the Chicago White Sox, you should be able to beat up on the bad teams. I think the Toronto Blue Jays this season have done a very good job of taking advantage of those bad teams. But they got a guy that gave them a little bit of trouble last time, Adrian Hauser. And on our side, got a guy that we are pretty confident in, and that is Eric Lauer. When I did my predictions, this is the game I did have the Toronto Blue Jays losing. I asked you last time, do you want to take yours back? I'm not even going to let you ask me if I want to take mine back, because I am for sure. We're absolutely rolling over this White Sox team. Eric Lauer is going to be at the front of that. This offense is going to continue on chugging. Again, we're not losing before the All-Star break. I am absolutely going to love the way this All-Star break ends. Let's just not lose for the rest of the season. That's kind of the point where I'm at here.
I could get fully on board with that one. That's if that's a Carter first take that I can hope to agree with, it's that one. And Hauser does have a fantastic ERA this season, 1.6.
Future Blue Jay.
Hey, listen, we're getting to the big board. We ain't talking about the big board yet. I got that coming next week. I'm in the middle of making it right now, so you guys will see that. We got a lot of trade speculation talk, just some of the rumors that have been going around. We're going to talk all about those in next week more so. We're going to maybe talk a little bit about it tomorrow, but it's going to be mostly next week, so stay tuned.
There's one guy I've convinced myself that I'm just completely all in on. I don't know how realistic it necessarily is, but give me this guy and hopefully one of his buddies as well, but we will get more into that in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, he's 4-2 on the season, going against Eric Lauer, who has been very strong as well. 2.65 ERA, 4-1 on the season. This might be a weirdly interesting matchup, pitching duel here, and I'm all here for it. I think I have way more confidence in the Blue Jays hitters than I do the White Sox. So I think if it is a pitching duel and you got to pit Eric Lauer against Hauser, I think you take Eric Lauer every day of the week here.
Yeah, it's my favorite hour of the week. Sometimes we get two. This time I think we're only getting one. It's the Lauer hour. Hopefully he does have a very good outing once again. Just one of my favorite guys to see pitch because I don't necessarily know exactly how he's doing it, but he is doing it. It has a lot to do with the fastball. I think how he is hiding that at the plate. But on the TV, you can't really tell. So that's why it's kind of cool. Just kind of has that magical feeling. Maybe Tyler Heineman rubbing off on Eric Lauer a little bit here as we do end off this episode. I just wanted to say with all the new people coming in and this just absolute tenure or tear of around the Toronto Blue Jays are going on right now from the bottom of our hearts. Just wanted to say thank you for everyone who is listening and coming back to watch our episodes. The live stream coming up on the 22nd. Just wanted to remind you guys of that again. The shorts, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on Instagram, TikTok. I've been trying to get a little bit better in the Discord as well. I think I'm just going to start standing the standings in there while the Toronto Blue Jays are in first place, just to remind people how lucky we are as Toronto Blue Jays fans to kind of be going through this right now. But Brayden, is there anything else you want to give to the people before we do take off? I guess for this Wednesday episode.
No, everybody just be thrilled, be happy. Have a couple hot dogs and a couple beers at home or something. Just enjoy this time because this stuff doesn't come around often when your team is on an absolute heater like this.
Literally ever, if you're in the Toronto Blue Jays case.
Yeah, literally ever. So have some fun with it all. Talk to your friends about it. Maybe if your friends are Blue Jays fans, maybe say, hey, we got this cool podcast you guys should check out.
Also, if you have Yankees friends or fans of the Yankees, friends that are fans of the Yankees, there we go. Tell them that they're bums. Tell them that they suck. We'll say it. We'll keep it, a little bit more PG. You can use some other words if you want. For this podcast, that's what we'll say.
There you go. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll break down the game before we get into sort of going into the off day. Thursday will be an off day episode. So going into Friday, which we will tee up the series as well. But we got some other things we want to talk about. Maybe going and looking at, what is making these guys so much better over this season than last season. We got so much to get into on that off day episode. We haven't got one in a while. So it's going to be fun to really be able to break some stuff down. Stay tuned for all that. And we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.